PT, some bonus coverage, anterior reaches lower extremity driver. The last bit was getting a little bit long with the lacrosse ball. We're going to add on to that. For dessert, you get the rocks, very prehistoric. With the foot and the ankle, what we're going to be doing pattern wise and adding kind of some pivots with these guys. What I want you to do for this guy right here, let's thinking about kind of making some shapes, so some circles a little bit. So what I like to do again to kind of facilitate all this stuff, let's go ahead and drive anterior with it. Anterior medial, the sequence, some dorsiflexion and eversion. And let's just kind of give us a little tour, a little circle. And then now let's extend it in that anterior lateral direction. And let's just kind of circle around to get that medial rotation of the tibia and fibula, and then also the lateral. That good kind of relative abduction at that mid-tarsal joint, clockwise, and then either counterclockwise with these guys. Your circle is your circle. It can be like a cylinder, be a big round circle, in any kind of plane, in any direction. I like to kind of add and use kind of pivots and diagonal. So I'll go with kind of the anterior lateral to the posterior medial, driving dorsiflexion and inversion, dorsiflexion, eversion, dorsiflexion, inversion, dorsiflexion, eversion. We'll now go medial to a lateral crossover. Medial to a lateral crossover, and notice how I'm using my upper extremity to drive and facilitate that. We're now going to go anterior medial and posterior lateral. So that's always a toughie for everybody. And boom. Now we're going to go with kind of some half moon kind of shapes. So we're going to load up that right foot and ankle dorsiflexion first, inversion to eversion. So replicating that again, that teeter-totter and that sawing-like effect of the men on either side of the saw cutting away at the tree. And it's always interesting as to the shapes that we kind of develop here. I like throwing in some squares. I like throwing in some kind of triangulation to the mix. So a little triangle, over and up, down and back. That was an odd looking triangle if I ever saw one. Boom, boom. And then over the butt and the hips and the legs, they will scream at you. Other dimensions, we're going to do the same thing in terms of, okay, let's make a little square now. I love being creative with it, and I love facilitating and providing an environment for us to enable that three-dimension kind of pronation and loading to take place and occur. I want you guys to be creative with those guys. Let's think circles, let's think triangles, squares, let's think figure eights, let's think teeter-totters, all dimensions and all planes, and transition throughout all planes. What we'll do next, I like my rocks. So I'll typically start with them right next to me. I'll pick up a rock and I'll set it out. We're going to move kind of in between and using kind of those pivot reaches, as well as kind of moving them in different dimensions. So we can kind of go with our little anterior reach. I need to step back a little bit, a little too easy. To anterior medial, anterior, anterior medial, take a couple away just so we have enough time to go through these guys. We'll go anterior medial, anterior lateral, anterior medial, anterior lateral. Takes a lot of coordination and a lot of rhythm. Anterior medial, anterior lateral. Let's go anterior lateral to posterior medial, anterior lateral, posterior medial, anterior lateral, posterior medial, fumble. We usually do those over anterior medial, anterior lateral to posterior medial. We go posterior medial to just straight lateral. Or we can go kind of lateral. So let's go, so we can kind of show you all the dimensions. We'll go medial and lateral with it now. Let's go lateral to medial. These guys back just a little bit. Medial or lateral to facilitate dorsiflexion inversion. Medial, going after dorsiflexion and eversion with a little more emphasis on the eversion. Play around with these guys. It's been great hanging with you for the anterior reach low extremity driver matrices and progressions. Play with these, guys to the limit.